Elon Musk just tore into King Charles's national speech and turned Buckingham Palace upside down. Within minutes of the broadcast, Musk called it scripted royal propaganda, and the reaction exploded across the world. The palace expected polite applause. Instead, it got digital chaos. The king spoke about unity and trust, but Musk's posts made it a global spectacle that the royal staff couldn't control. Elon Musk had been tearing through the country's political order for weeks. His posts about censorship, police arrests, and free speech were still trending when the king began his speech. The timing couldn't have been worse. The moment Charles said the words, "trust in our institutions," clips hit social media. Within minutes, Musk's followers flooded timelines calling it royal propaganda. Then Musk dropped one sentence that turned a royal address into a digital firestorm. When the crown defends censorship, the crown defends tyranny. 20 million views before the palace press team even reacted. The speech wasn't controversial by old standards. It talked about national healing and protecting harmony. But to millions watching online, it sounded disconnected from a country where people were being jailed for posts. The internet didn't hear reassurance. It heard denial. The palace released a short clip on its official channel. Musk quote-posted it with the caption, "scripted by the same ministers who silenced the people." It was short, blunt, and devastating. His followers began cutting the video, placing Charles's lines beside clips of police dragging protesters. The visual told its own story, and it exploded across every platform. Within an hour, hashtags like Crown of Control and Palace Spin hit the trending lists. Commentators debated whether the monarchy was stepping into politics or covering for it. The BBC panel tried to stay neutral, but even they couldn't ignore the numbers. Musk's thread had over 100 million views. The palace statement had less than one. Royal aides rushed to hold emergency calls with media executives. They told networks to reframe the story. It didn't help. Musk wasn't backing down. He wrote, "If the king believes free speech threatens order, maybe order isn't the problem." The post reached audiences the palace couldn't touch: Americans, Europeans, Australians, all watching a monarchy struggle with a billionaire's keyboard. By midnight, Buckingham Palace looked less like a royal residence and more like a newsroom. Staff moving fast, advisors arguing over tone. Some wanted silence, others wanted rebuttal. One insider leaked a quote saying, "We didn't expect to be trending next to Elon Musk." That line became the top headline in half the British press the next morning. The next day, Royal Communications released an official response calling Musk's posts a misunderstanding of the king's intentions. It was meant to calm the wave. It made it worse. Social media called it damage control. Memes started using the palace logo with captions like "clarified and approved by the government." Inside the palace, reports described tension. Charles was described as deeply concerned that his words were being twisted. Staff called it panic in the palace. Security briefings were added to his calendar. The press office cancelled interviews. The BBC quietly cut Musk's name from their late-night segment on the speech. But you can't censor Elon Musk. He replied instantly, "If they censor me for quoting the king, maybe the king needs new advisors." 50 million impressions in a few hours. That single sentence became the new headline. By lunchtime, it wasn't a debate about the speech anymore. It was Elon Musk versus the British monarchy. Major outlets from New York to Tokyo picked it up. The king versus the billionaire. Tech titan challenges the crown. Palace in panic. The coverage went global. Downing Street stayed quiet. Officials didn't want to inflame another front while still dealing with Musk's earlier feud with Keir Starmer, but silence didn't help. The story spread faster because nobody could stop it. Every analyst on television used the same phrase: the royal brand had been pulled into the digital battlefield. Behind the scenes, palace advisors argued over strategy. Some wanted to ignore Musk completely. Others warned that ignoring him only gave him more control over the narrative. The comms team tried coordinating with media partners to push supportive coverage. Musk's followers flooded every comment section before it could gain traction. Meanwhile, Musk doubled down. He released a 10-post thread calling for royal accountability. He wrote that speeches about unity were meaningless when citizens were being arrested for opinions. His words were sharp, but what made them lethal was reach. Within hours, his thread crossed 300 million impressions. Independent journalists picked it up. Reform UK politicians echoed the posts, accusing the monarchy of shielding an out-of-touch government. Street protests popped up outside Parliament and the BBC building with banners quoting Musk. Some signs read, "The Crown protects the censors." Buckingham Palace increased security. Public appearances were quietly postponed. Senior aides told reporters it was for scheduling reasons, but insiders admitted concern over safety. The palace had never seen digital backlash turn into physical demonstrations this fast. International media called it a historic moment, the first time a sitting monarch faced an online rebellion from a private citizen. Commentators compared it to the Diana era in scale, but faster, louder, and global. The next morning, the stock market opened shaky. The pound dropped slightly after Musk posted, "When leadership fears truth, economies follow." The quote spread instantly. Royal sources denied any economic connection, but the timing was obvious. Back at the palace, senior courtiers pushed for a second statement to settle the uproar. They drafted a speech emphasizing shared values and national respect. Advisors warned that another statement could inflame things, but the decision was made anyway. By afternoon, news outlets teased that a new royal clarification was coming. Musk responded before it aired. Still no apology to the jailed citizens. 50,000 reposts in the first 5 minutes. That line became the new narrative before Charles even spoke. The palace couldn't win the speed war. Every time they planned a message, Musk rewrote it first. By nightfall, international networks framed it as a collapse of control. The BBC ran cautious coverage. CNN called it a generational clash of power. Sky News reported that Buckingham Palace underestimated the reach and timing of Musk's influence. Inside the palace gates, aides admitted what the world already knew: the monarchy had lost the information war. Musk didn't storm in with protests or petitions. He did it with one phone, one platform, and an audience bigger than the kingdom itself. The crisis didn't fade overnight. It evolved. Musk's posts had stopped being reactions. They were now blueprints. The hashtag Royal Accountability turned into a campaign with millions of supporters demanding transparency from Buckingham Palace. Musk called it simple. The monarchy should exist for the people, not above them. That post alone crossed 250 million views. Independent journalists echoed it. Commentators said the King's speech had opened a debate the palace never wanted to have: who actually speaks for the country in 2025? Reform UK politicians grabbed the line instantly. Nigel Farage repeated it on live TV, saying, "Elon is saying what most people already feel: the system is broken at every level." His clip went viral. Musk reposted it with a thumbs-up emoji and the phrase, "Britain deserves honesty." That was enough to make it the headline story across the Atlantic. Street protests began forming outside the BBC Parliament and even near Buckingham Palace gates. Placards read, "Royal words, censored lives, and truth before titles." Organizers said they weren't anti-monarchy, they were demanding accountability. But the image of protest signs outside royal walls looked like something from another era. If you're following this chaos and want every new twist before it hits the headlines, hit subscribe. This story is moving faster than the palace can react. Royal security tightened. Schedules were quietly cleared. Planned events were postponed for operational reasons. Every palace insider knew the real reason. The institution wasn't used to real-time backlash. In decades of royal media management, nothing had spread like this. A full-blown global campaign powered by one man's phone. International outlets began framing it as the first digital uprising against a monarch. The Washington Post wrote that the Musk versus Charles story was a warning to every head of state. French and German media called it the moment monarchy met algorithm. Inside the palace, strategy meetings stretched into early mornings. Senior advisors debated whether to issue a public apology or hold firm. Some argued the king should ignore Musk completely. Others warned that silence looked like guilt. Aides floated the idea of inviting Musk for private talks. That was shut down immediately. Nobody wanted headlines saying, "The Crown meets its critic." While the palace scrambled, Westminster entered the chaos. MPs started debating Musk's influence in Parliament. Government ministers accused him of destabilizing national unity. Musk replied in seconds, "If unity means silence, it's not unity." His quote led every news bulletin that night. The government's plan to contain the fallout failed. Every time they attacked Musk, he hit back with facts, arrest records, court papers, archived footage. The Labour benches groaned as Starmer's name reappeared in every segment. The story had shifted from royal embarrassment to full political collapse. Even conservative MPs began using Musk's words to score points. They said the monarchy had become too close to the government and too distant from the public. The debate spiraled so fast that Parliament's Speaker had to call for order twice. Inside Downing Street, civil servants started briefing the press that the palace was struggling under digital pressure. They said social media storms were creating instability. The framing only made Musk look stronger. He posted, "If transparency causes instability, the problem isn't the truth." 80 million views in hours. As London tried to calm the noise, global markets reacted. The pound slipped again after Musk posted, "Power built on censorship has no foundation." It wasn't even directed at Charles, but investors understood the implication. Uncertainty now extended to the royal institution itself. Behind the gates, advisors discussed bringing Prince William and Princess Kate forward to cool tensions. Younger faces, softer voices, better optics. But internal reports warned it might turn the fight into a family affair, Musk versus the heirs. Nobody wanted to see that headline. The plan shifted to a follow-up royal address. A short, televised message where Charles would clarify his intent and reaffirm faith in democracy. The palace believed a calm tone could steady things. The recording was finished quietly. The release time set for 6 p.m. London time. At 5:30 p.m., Musk posted first. Still no apology to the jailed citizens. That single sentence reached tens of millions before Charles appeared on screen. The timing was flawless. The narrative was gone before the broadcast even started. The king's message aired, but the audience wasn't listening. Comment sections were filled with Musk's quote. Memes replaced clips of the speech. Commentators said the monarchy was now chasing the internet's shadow. The digital age had stripped away its ability to control the story. That night, Musk tweeted again, "Respect is earned, not inherited." It was short, brutal, and final. The line became the headline in nearly every morning paper. The Sun called it Musk's mic drop, heard around the world. The Guardian wrote that the king's authority was shattered online. Polling confirmed it. Public trust in the monarchy dropped 10 points in a week. Approval ratings fell below 40%. Focus groups said the royal response felt scripted and out of touch. Musk's name appeared in more British news headlines than Charles's for 7 straight days. Analysts called it the collapse of control. The monarchy, long considered untouchable, had been dragged into the arena of open accountability. Musk didn't break tradition with protests or politics. He broke it with attention, the one currency no institution can buy. Calls for reform started trending. Activists launched petitions for a Royal Transparency Act demanding the palace publish financial records and political communications. Within 48 hours, it gained over 1 million signatures. It wasn't just a trend. It was a movement. Foreign outlets joined in. American anchors debated if the monarchy still mattered in the modern world. Australian and Canadian commentators asked if their nations should rethink their ties to the crown. The conversation had left Britain entirely. Inside Buckingham Palace, aides reported exhaustion. Staff turnover accelerated. Media advisors left under pressure. Some blamed the government for dragging the monarchy into politics. Others blamed Musk for weaponizing freedom. Whatever the cause, the result was visible. For the first time, royal officials admitted privately that they couldn't stop the story. Every effort to silence it made it louder. Every press release gave Musk more ammunition. Even traditional monarchists began saying the crown needed to adapt or risk losing relevance altogether.